What
Ladies
is
and
up,
gentlemen,
everyone? Oh,
I guess we're
Kevin. I don't know, man.
We're gonna
Look,
both.
I've been hosting all week. I'm gonna let you do this. I like your voice better anyway.
I'm doing it to give you a break, brother.
I'll take it. Let's go.
Because I don't even know. I thought my internet was jacked up. But look, Kevin Tompkins, Nate Polvogt here on the Express. We're going to talk about every single game that happened today. Lots of stuff. If you're into lower leg injuries, this is the slate for you. If you're into block kicks, this is the slate for you. What else you got, Nate? How you doing, brother?
I'm tired, man. This was like, I don't know. I was looking for this night game to kind of like perk me up a little bit, right? And wow, 6-6 at the half. What a game. The Kansas City Chiefs look like a bottom 5 team in the NFL right now. The Giants look slightly better or worse depending on which series it was. I don't know, man. This was a weird day. Like, to have 2 games end on a blocked kick return for a touchdown, what the hell? But you know what? This is football.
I mean, supposedly. I mean, if you're watching what you're watching right now, that's games going on. I mean, that could be in doubt, certainly. But let's talk about some games that we know were football, I guess, to more of an extent than the Kansas City Chiefs and the New York Football supposed Giants. Minnesota and Cincinnati, the battle of the backups. Jake Browning versus Carson Wentz. I would say that, if you had to put defensive back Isaiah Rodgers solely against the Cincinnati Bengals, we're looking at a 12-10 score right now in favor of Rodgers. So there is that. The Vikings won 48-10. I will say it wasn't really like the most standout offensive performance. It really was not. It was more about Brian Flores putting the wood to old Jake Browning there, who has not recreated the magic of the 6-7 game stretch of 2023. But Justin Jefferson 5 for 75, 7. TJ Hawkinson scored a touchdown. It was nice to see 5 for 49. He had been a pretty slow starter first 2 games of the season, so it was nice to see that. Jordan Mason is the story of the offense for the Minnesota Vikings. 16 for 116, 2 touchdowns. Nothing through the air, but you kind of thought that was going to be the case. There was some runway there where they had, Xavier Scott. They re-signed Cam Akers, so you thought that maybe Jordan Mason, if he was ever going to catch passes, now would be the time to do it, because it was going to be, you would think, pretty consolidated Mason. And the touches were, but remember, 48-10, you got backups in there. You got Scott with 8 rush attempts, Cam Akers with 5. But predominantly, you have to feel good about Jordan Mason, at least for the interim here, as far as being a mid to high end RB2.
Well, I think as long as we're without J.J. McCarthy, we're going to see a lot more Jordan Mason. And we know that Aaron Jones is, 4 weeks? He's on IR for the next 4 weeks.
At least.
So, Jordan Mason's just going to see a ton of volume. And he actually did something with it today, which I was really pleased to see. 16 carries, 116 yards. He got the 2 touchdowns. But I think the real story here, Kevin, Carson Wentz didn't throw an interception, and he didn't lose this game for Minnesota. He played well enough to not get in their way, which that's more than J.J. McCarthy can say for what he's done the first 2 weeks with this team. This is what this team needed. They have enough pieces around them. Their defense is good enough. And you're up against a Cincinnati team that I think there has to be a conversation at a certain point about, like, they've got to move on from what they're trying to do right now. We'll get to that half of it. But for me, the biggest story was Carson Wentz didn't get in their way. I think he was serviceable today, and I was impressed.
Yeah, Carson Wentz didn't have to do too much. Only 20 pass attempts. Max Brosmer ended up coming in at the end of the game to mop it up. But 20 attempts, they didn't have to do too much. They were able to just run. The defense helped them. So when you get defense like that in the running game, your hands are tied. You don't have to do much. Justin Jefferson, considering they scored 48 points and they were never pushed in that game, you'll take that. That's still 12.5 points. I mean, that's like a floor game, and that's perfectly fine. You still got your pretty good TJ Hawkinson game. We'll get Jordan Addison back next week, which will be, a sight for sore eyes after a 3-game suspension. So you could probably, if you have Adam Thielen for whatever reason, he's droppable now, certainly. But other than that, let's go to the Cincinnati. The Cincinnati side didn't really do too much either. Jake Browning, 140 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. The 1 touchdown was late to Drew Sample. And then, Jamar Chase, 5 for 50. T. Higgins didn't really do much. He had a single catch, 1 for 15. Chase Brown, 10 carries, 3 yards. Like, not great, Bob. Better days are ahead, I would say. I would assume that because of this game here, they're going to change how they kind of want to operate, knowing that they're not going to have Joe Burrow. They're going to have to do the old Paul Hand of hiding the negatives and accentuating the positives, though there was not a lot of positivity to take from this performance, and really for the Bengals last week with the Jamar Chase blow up. But other than that, there's not much to go, that we're happy about with the Bengals, and it sucks. And we've always expected them, the high pass rate we're expected. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins you can kind of bank on as long as they're healthy. Chase Brown, some volume is going to be there for him. But this is not the Bengals that we're used to. I think that this is going to be kind of a wake-up call, certainly for the Bengals and how they have to operate going forward.
Well, they got to do something about this offensive line, Kevin, because it's atrocious. And you look at Chase Brown, 10 carries for 3 yards. That's a symptom of the offensive line. That's atrocious. I know he's inefficient, and I've been harping on that all week with Chase Brown, but this is beyond. This is a team that's going to have to run the ball moving forward without having Joe Burrow and with Jake Browning behind center. What are we going to look at? They're going to rely on Taj Brooks, Samaj Pirine. Is this what their running game is going to be? It's going to be a 3-headed monster with Chase Brown. They're going to have to figure something out because Chase Brown's going to need to see a lot of volume moving forward. I do have a question for you in regards to all this, though. How worried are you about Jamar Chase and T. Higgins moving forward? Do we think this is what Jake Browning is, or do you just need a couple weeks to warm up? Because I'm worried that this is more of just kind of what we're going to see out of Browning rest of season.
Yeah, this is probably the lower end range of outcomes for Jake Browning. So there's going to be better games, I would say. And with Jamar Chase, you're never not starting him. He's going to be probably, at least in this iteration of the offense, he's probably a lower end wide receiver 1, but you're starting him every week. T. Higgins, I think, goes into the wide receiver 3 range where you have decisions to make as far as week to week, whether you can start him or not. But so I'm not super worried about Chase, but the Higgins part I'm worried about. Chase Brown, volume's going to be there. I think the only reason we saw Taj Brooks get 5 carries, we saw Samaje Perine get 4, just because of the blowout. They're typically a pretty condensed personnel team. So in terms of volume and workload, I'm not worried about Chase Brown. But if they're certainly going to be in 48-10 games, that is something to worry about. Brian Flores is he was salivating at this game, pinning his ears back, pin the defense's ears back against a backup quarterback. That's, Brian Flores is going to take advantage of spots like that.
Yep.
Let's go over to Jacksonville and Houston, which, I did watch part of that game, kind of slight curiosity because, we got to see it from Trevor Lawrence. And I still don't know if we even got that because, 17-10, Jacksonville did beat the Houston Texans. They don't look great either. But still pretty inefficient, 20 of 40, 222 yards and an interception. Travis Etienne, 16 for 56 of that touchdown. Bashal Tutin didn't get a lot of run here, 6 carries, only 17% of the snaps, so 14% of the routes, still got a touchdown on the ground. So that was fine if you started him, which I did because I am slappy. But what you don't like to see is pretty much what you got out of the passing game. Perhaps the wrist, it could be the wrist, it could be a combination of things with Brian Thomas. Still inefficient, 2 for 55 on 6 targets. What you don't like to see is Parker Washington getting 10 targets. I don't think the offense is functioning, certainly the way they would like it to be. Travis Hunter, Still saw his about 55 to 65% of snaps or routes, I should say, only 1 for 21. So I think we're at the point now where I think you got to bench Travis Hunter, at least for right now, until we start seeing some of the more efficiency out of this offense. Brian Thomas Jr., I think, is the only, the guy you feel comfortable starting with. Even then, because he's been so inefficient, I think that has some questions there. And then Brenton Strange is like a totally fine, like matchup dependent play. 6 for 61 today, 7 targets. I think that's perfectly fine. He's always going to have a big role as far as running routes. But this passing game is like not working for anybody right now. And I think if you drafted Brian Thomas at the end of the first round, I think you're sweating bullets.
Well, I said it on the Start Sit show this morning. I said it earlier in the week in regards to Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter. You're drafting these guys early. What Travis Hunter will end up being is a token offensive guy who mostly plays corner because he's a better cornerback than he is a wide receiver. Brian Thomas Jr. is great, but you've got a quarterback in Trevor Lawrence that just can't get him the ball in ways that is going to help this offense run. I have a hard time, and if I drafted Brian Thomas Jr. where most people drafted him, I would be upset, and I don't think it's going to get better. And look at what Trevor Lawrence is, Kevin. 20 for 40 for 222 yards.
He's Derek Carr.
He's Derek Carr. He's not even Derek Carr. He's like Derek Carr adjacent, but less efficient than Derek Carr.
He's Derek Carr.
Okay, so Jen and I watching today, we're watching the end of that Jacksonville game, and this was a conversation or question that I posed to her. Are there even 10 teams in the NFL where he would be the starter over the current starter, Trevor Lawrence?
I mean,
okay, the Giants, the Jets, Cleveland. I just don't. He was supposed to be football Jesus. I'm kind of over him at this point.
I think he would be in Indy. If you gave them a choice of Trevor Lawrence or Daniel Jones, independent of what Daniel Jones has done so far, I think they would still take him in Indy. Let me take a look here. I think they would take him in Vegas. I think they would take him in Miami.
Miami would take him. Vegas, would you? I don't know if I'd take him over Geno Smith, man. Marlon, we're going to get to your
yeah.
We'll get to your question here in a second, buddy. Let's just toss this out here. Homie needs help. He's desperate. He's asking around. Let's get to this one real quick. He want Amika for Tyreek, Monty, Josh Jacobs, and JMO.
No,
I wouldn't do. That's way too much. That's insanity. Yep. Don't do it. All right, we got to you, Marlon. We're going to get back to this game here. I think I need more out of Trevor Lawrence, given what his draft capital was, what this offense could be, the parts and pieces he has. I'm just overall disappointed, and I wouldn't want him in Denver over Bo Nix.
Yeah, no, I mean, if I were Denver, I wouldn't either. But I mean, yeah, I think we got to start, asking some questions about Trevor Lawrence at this point. And I know the NFL media is going to be absolutely roasting him this week, certainly. And I think I don't know about going in on Liam Cohen because we're 3 games in, but certainly he didn't draft Trevor Lawrence. I mean, I think there's going to be because he's got a long-term contract too. So that's going to be very interesting to see what they do or what Liam Cohen can get out of Trevor Lawrence going forward. But let's talk about, the running game too, because you still got, obviously you traded Tank Bigsby, you cleared the runway a little bit for Bashal Tutin, but who got the most routes today was LaQuinn Allen, who got 30% of snaps. LaQuinn Allen, Bashal Tutin, I don't think you can start him right now. I know he's incredibly efficient, at least in the last 2 games from the carries that he has gotten, but Tutin is more of a wait and see than I think the Jacksonville Jaguars have let on so far. And he looks good because everybody else looks so terrible outside of Travis Etienne. So I think it's almost a little bit, I don't want to say it's fool's gold because I think Bashal Tutin's a really good player, but they're playing LaQuinn Allen way too much. And I know Q Sky, it's fine, but Etienne's look pretty good. I think he's still got a pretty decent leash, but I think we got to pump the brakes a little on Tutin right now.
Oh, we definitely do. 6 carries for 29 yards. The touchdowns are nice, but you know that touchdown equity isn't going to continue with Tootin. That's going to revert back to Etienne for the most part. This was a weird matchup. Couple weeks in a row, it's nice. He's not a guy you can rely on fantasy.
Yeah, only 14% route, 17% snaps for Bachel Tootin today. Yep. So that's nothing that you can really bank on, at least right now. The role's not growing really. He's getting carries, but yeah. Over to the Houston side, though, Nico Collins is Nico. He is our general. He is Julio Jones on the field right now. 8 for 104 and a touchdown, 11 targets. Christian Kirk came back his first game of the season, 8 targets, 77% of routes. Like, that's fine. I was actually surprised that he did that because of how much Houston is like to rotate a lot of their guys. I mean, they had last week, Justin Watson and Xavier Hutchinson taking way too many routes. But some of that's been at the expense of like Jaden Higgins. Jaden Higgins was around the 50-60% mark in terms of routes, down to 33% today. That's not what you want. And I don't get what the Texans are doing. I know that you wanted to get Kirk in the building and have him kind of start as being like your replacement for Tank Dell. But you're playing Xavier Hutchinson way too much right now. You spent, high draft capital on Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel to run a combined 49% of the routes today. Like, it's not great there, and you don't feel good about Dalton Schultz, even though he had an okay game, 5 for 39 and 6 targets, 86% of routes. The run game is awful. Nick Chubb, 9 for 38, 52% of the snaps. Woody Marks. I mean, Woody Marks is the guy that, we're probably picking up this week, hoping we can kind of stash and see what develops there. And right now he's pretty much got half the role right now. He's running more routes. He's evening up on the touches for Houston. So like Woody Marks is coming up a little bit. Nick Chubb is coming down a little bit, but still it's not an offense outside of Nico Collins that I want any part of, outside of like maybe Christian Kirk in a deeper league where I need production.
I can get on board with Christian Kirk in a deeper league. Nico Collins, definitely. I know that there was concern.
Well, yeah, Nico Collins is a wide receiver one. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a wide receiver one, but I'm with you outside of that. And I think that's the issue here, is that there's no real run game, and teams don't have to respect the run with this team because you've got Nick Chubb, who I don't think anyone believes that his legs are in that good a shape. There's not going to be any you're not going to see him run the ball 20 times a game. There's no reason to respect the run game because behind Nick Chubb, you've got Dameon Pierce, who we've barely seen, and Woody Marks, who's good, but he's a rookie. Is kind of that Tootin thing where I need to see more. I need him to prove it. I need him to see him on the field a little bit more.
Well, at least he's getting on that's the thing, is he's getting on the field.
It's true.
So
more than Tootin. So that's fair. But it is, I mean, you can't even start CJ Stroud. 1 touchdown, 204 yards, but he throws the 2 picks. This is an offense in fantasy for the most part I am staying away from outside of Nico Collins.
Yep. Yeah. CJ Stroud's son running the Juju Smith-Schuster career path right now, where you had a good beginning. Your rookie season was your best season. And maybe it's Kyle Pitts. That's your career arc of you nutted on the first, the nut outcome your first year, and that's just slip sliding away. So I'm not. Yeah, CJ Stroud does not feel good right now even in like super flex, where you're obviously the quarterback pool is large to everybody else. It still doesn't feel good as even a quarterback too. So yeah, just feed Nico and get out of the way. Everybody else in Houston. But let's go over to one of the best teams who I think they got to be for real now. The Indianapolis Colts. We've seen it for 3 weeks in a row. Dominating a team that they should be dominating, the Tennessee Titans, 41-20. They're in, Michael Pittman, 6 for 73 to touchdown, 2 for 34 for downs. Quiet game for Tyler Warren, but this offense is operating how we pretty much thought it would be. We know Alec Pierce is taking routes. He had a pretty decent game, 4 for 67 for the best ballers out there on 70% routes. Michael Pittman's your prototypical X. Tyler Warren's going to run a bunch of routes. Jonathan Taylor, awesome. 17 for 102 and 3 touchdowns. He looks like the Saquon Barkley from last year, where he's a guy that was going in the second round that we kind of passed off. And I'll admit that I was a little bit guilty of that too, because I was worried that he wasn't going to be catching passes. 4 targets, it's pretty much in line of where he's been all season. So look, Jonathan Taylor obviously must start. He's as close to like our overall RB1 as it gets right now. Was RB1 this week, 32.8 fantasy points. So I don't even know if we really need to talk about Taylor there, but I don't even know if there's anything else you want to talk about with this, because it's pretty status quo from like the last few weeks, other than, some of the production. We got a kind of a dud game from Warren today.
Yeah, the dud game from Warren. He's a rookie tight end. It's going to happen. You and I are two people who just weren't that high on Warren. So anything he does any week, even these down weeks, is more than we thought we were necessarily going to see.
I already admitted I was wrong on Blue Sky.
Me too.
I already admitted I was wrong on that.
We were wrong, Kevin. We were wrong. The one thing I do want to say, though, is it's nice to see Jonathan Taylor actually being able to produce in a competent offense. This is who we thought Jonathan Taylor always was, and we always saw it in periods, but this feels like, do we see 2,000 yards out of Jonathan Taylor this year? I think we might get to 2,000 yards out of Jonathan Taylor if this keeps up. That's exciting to me. This is more exciting offense than I expected, so woohoo. Kudos.
Well, that's what happens. There's always talent in this offense, and it's nice to see that of all the people, frickin' Daniel Jones is the guy to bring it all together, just like we all expected. So, sorry, Anthony Richardson, you and your 4 carries for -1 yards today. You will be sent to a nice farm family upstate, the way this is going. In terms of the Tennessee Titans, now, I guess we got a little better. I mean, we're seeing some slight improvements with Cam Ward, 23-38, 219 yards, 1 touchdown. He wasn't like an abhorrent mess. So at least there's that. Receiving stuff you don't really like Calvin Ridley hasn't been great. He's just running routes at this point, but you don't really want to start him. 1 for 27 today on 6 targets. Alec Ayamanar, 4 for 38 and a touchdown. That was nice to see. I still think he's in the starting kind of periphery there. I don't know if he's like quite to where you're starting him in your flex, but he's like one of those guys. If you don't have a lot of like options, at the back end, if you're like worried about, obviously Mike Evans left the game. We'll talk about that. If you're rostering like Cooper Kupp-ish type guys, and you don't really have anybody else to start, like, I'm totally fine with starting a guy like Ailman and hoping for the upside. But other than that, I mean, there's not too much to talk about. 5 for 66 for Chigakonkwo. Tony Pollard gets 70% of the team rushing attempts. That's status quo. 16 for 45 and a touchdown. This is pretty status quo too. I mean, we're seeing Kamir DK, get on the field. He actually backed up a little bit, and for some reason they still want to give routes to Tyler Lockett and Van Jefferson for whatever reason. But there's not a lot of exciting things here outside of Ayamanar.
No, Ayamanar is really the only story. Well, Cam Ward played better, and I think that is a story too. He's showing he's actually progressing. He had the touchdown pass, still the 1 pick. Yeah, it's building blocks, which I like to see. Doesn't make me any more excited to fire him up in any sort of format in fantasy, but maybe in the future, this is a guy who's growing. So I love to see that. And Ao Manor, baby. I love this kid coming in. I think he's, in the next couple of weeks, he's going to approach probably starting him every week just because the volume's consistent. Week 1 was a little bit rough. He only had the 2 catches on 7 targets, but otherwise we're seeing consistent volume. If he keeps producing with that week over week, he's someone I'm going to get more excited about, at least to start.
And the one thing I do like about, Cam Ward, and at least in this offense, is that because of Cam Ward's individual skill set, it's a good skill set for getting volume out. Like, they're not going to like just completely hide him in a blowout. Like, they're going to let him, because remember what we saw with CJ Stroud, in 2023, where, they let him, PFF Bobby Slowick, they let him throw the ball. They let him get 40, 45 pass attempts. And that's the only way you really learn. I know you're doing it against prevent defenses or softer coverages, but being able to make timing throws, like that's great. You want that. You want to build that rapport. So being able to at least get out there to get more reps with the Io Manners and the Calvin Ridleys and the DKs that they're going to be working in with Chikakonkwo. You got to figure out who your guys are going to be going forward on this team, because going forward, you're not building for Tyler Lockett. You're not building for Van Jefferson.
No.
You might not even be building for Tony Pollard. The way this offense is, going to have to just restructure. But having a guy like Io Manor, having a guy that maybe, Calvin Ridley's been a classic number 2 receiver. I'd say he's miscast as like the top receiver just because the Titans are so, they've needed pass catchers and they'll take whoever. So I am intrigued, but yeah, it's building blocks. I think we have to be a little more patient here, but at the very least, we're going to get some volume to go along with that. 38 pass attempts today for Cam Ward in the loss. They lost by 3 touchdowns, so that was pretty good to see there.
Yep.
Let's go over to the Washington Commanders, who also scored 41 points like the Indianapolis Colts. They did beat the Las Vegas Raiders 41-24. Not too much here, really. This was just a kind of strength on there's not a lot in the passing game. Terry McLaurin had his best game of the season so far, and that's saying something.
Yes.
74, 4 targets. They did take a lot of those guys off the field. Only 60% snaps, 60% routes for McLaurin, and all the other guys outside of like Zach Ertz didn't even run half. Because a lot of those guys, like the Benson, it's got a lot of work in there. Jalen Lane, Luke McCaffrey. So you can't really take a lot of like the snaps and routes from this game because of the disparity in score. But the one thing I will say is that I do think that this backfield is going to be a hot mess going forward with finding out what you're going to be starting. Jacory Crosby-Barrett, I think is totally fine as far as like a low end running back too. But it's going to be a committee. Jeremy McNichols did a lot of the 3rd down 2-minute drill stuff, completely split the short yardage stuff between all 3 backs and Chris Rodriguez. So that's not great. Chris Rodriguez and Bill kind of split the goal line stuff. And then early down stuff was JCM. So like JCM is probably the guy you feel best about, but it's still like not super great. And at least with bye weeks, maybe the Jeremy McNichols of the world, those guys get a little more attractive as terms of starters, but it's still kind of a mess.
Yeah, no, and I'm completely with you. I love the Jeremy McNichols touchdown because I fired him up in DFS. I don't even know why I did. I just looked at the names like, oh, he's super cheap, so I'll do it. This is without Jaden Daniels in this game, they won. Great. Rushing work was spread around. It was nice to see Terry McLaurin get the 3 catches for 74. Deebo Samuel only getting the 2 catches was kind of a bummer, but all in all, I don't think there's a whole lot to take away from this on the Washington side.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. Marcus Mariota, only had 21 pass attempts in the game. Yep. So everything got, and Marcus Mariota he had 6 carries for 40 yards and a touchdown as well. So like that makes it even more of a hot mess there, especially if he's going to be in there. Going over to the Vegas side, like I know we're going to get some kind of sticker shock in looking at the line for Trey Tucker with 3 touchdowns. I implore you all, don't look at that and expect that that's going to be a thing. There's another non-zero chance that he might not get 3 targets or 3 touchdowns the rest of the year. He might not even get 8 catches for 145 yards the rest of the year. So that is complete fool's gold. Trey Tucker runs a lot of routes. Maybe it's because Brock Bowers. I'm a little worried. He did run 94% of routes today, but I feel like he might still be hurt a little bit. I was talking to Andrew Cooper about that today in the group chat. He pretty much said that he looked like Bowers is hurt just a little bit, but Jacoby Myers 3 for 60, like totally fine, 100% route participation there. But other than that, Ashton Genty 17 for 63, 61% of the team rushing attempts. For some reason, they want to mix in Zamir White and Dylan Lobby for reasons unbeknownst to me. Anything else you have to add? I mean, do we want to you want to rail on Trey Tucker some more?
Oh, no, this was a career game for Trey Tucker. Cool. He had 9 targets. This is the only time this season he will lead this Raiders team in targets. Bank it. Mark my words here. I don't know that he has more than 10 targets over the next 3 games total. Cool performance. Wish I'd fired him up in DFS. I didn't. Like you said, don't expect this again.
Yeah, and I'm not, trust me. He is as much of a cardio wide receiver as it gets. And I'm just pulling up some of his stuff right now. Yeah. I mean, he had 8 targets last week, but 3 for 12 on those 8 targets against the Chargers. But he's run 93% of the routes in total for the Raiders this season as the other outside wide receiver next to Jacoby Myers. So, yeah, this is something that we're looking at, and we're not, putting any weight behind it here. So I will say, let's go to what was a furious comeback by this team, the Philadelphia Eagles, in coming back to beat the Los Angeles Rams, and probably, I would say, the play of the day. I'm choosing to purposely forget what happened in Green Bay. But yeah, block kick, run back for a touchdown, which he didn't have to do it, but he did. So,
well, you kind of have to.
It was nice to see that you don't have to, but once you get that opportunity, because as a defensive player, you never know when you're going to get the ball like that again. So, like, I don't blame
exactly
for doing that. It was Jordan Davis, I think it was, but
yeah.
So it was good to see the passing game get featured here. And in typical condensed fashion for the Philadelphia Eagles, it was all about the big 3: A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert only had 2 targets, but he at least made his 1 catch count, 1 for 33 and a touchdown. That's still double-digit points. That was still tight at 9 on the week, 1 for 33 and a touchdown. That should tell you anything that you get. Like, you get a touchdown and you're almost a guaranteed top 15 tight end. But yeah, A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith combined for about 70% of the team's targets. 10 for A.J. Brown, 6 for 109, a touchdown. 11 targets for Devonta Smith, 8 for 60 and a touchdown. Like, this offense is a wagon, and you're starting these guys no matter what. You're gonna get these dud performances from the passing game, and it sucks when you get that. But you have to start A.J. Brown. You have to start Devonta Smith if they're active.
Oh, you absolutely have to. And A.J. Brown, man, a couple of those receptions and the yards after the catch he was getting, it was just a reminder that this is still A.J. Brown. Has he been disappointing for fantasy earlier in the season? Yeah, but he's still A.J. Brown, and he's still going to get you points when you need them. This was an interesting game. Jalen Hurts turning it on in the second half. That first half offensive performance from Philly had me worried, Kevin. That was insanely bad. Because what was it? What did they have? A total? It was like,
yeah.
Was it even? It wasn't even 50 yards of offense in the first half.
It was not great. It was like, we really are worried about this offense. Like, and then they flipped the switch. They pretty much had to here. But yeah, Jalen Hurts, had a push touchdown. Saquon Barkley, not a great game for him, 18 for 46. And those games happen, especially when you're like getting back into the catch-up mode and everything like that the Eagles had to do. They had to score 26 points in the second half to get back into this game and win, to go to 3-0. But yeah, Jalen Hurts, something we have not seen in a while, 32 pass attempts. So that was nice to see. And if they're like, that's the thing, is the thesis for the Eagles is that if they're in games like this, they're going to have to pass more than we expect. And you're getting 32 pass attempts is going to be a detriment to if we're drafting Saquon Barkley in the top 5 and expecting him to get 2,000 yards again. So if this team is going to get pushed a little more than they did last season, you're going to see the pass attempt spike. They had 446 team pass attempts last season, the lowest since I believe the 2021 Falcons and Bears. So that was like almost historic lows for pass attempts. So you have to kind of expect some regression in that. With you're not going to get 446 team pass attempts again. So very good to see the passing game at least get some work here and just kind of restore our faith in AJ Brown and Devonta Smith. Anything else? Did you have anything else for the Eagles, or I can go to the Rams?
No, I already spouted off about my Eagles crap, man. Nobody else wants to hear it. Let's move on.
Let's talk about the most efficient wide receiver in the National Football League. I don't know if you've heard of him, Puka Nacua. 11 for 112. He is a grown ass man, of course. Devontae Adams simpatico with Puka Nacua, because Devontae Adams can go get some of the deep stuff. Puka Nacua could be the flanker and just get everything else underneath and get schemed open. Devontae Adams, not a super efficient day, 3 for 56 and a touchdown on 8 targets, led the way with 130 air yards. Full route participation for Devontae Adams. Other than that, Kyron Williams had a receiving touchdown, but nobody else had, there was 3 total catches for the rest of the This is condensed offense, people. We just talked about with the Eagles. Yep. It is like this with the Rams as well. So Kyron Williams, 20 for 94. Blake Corum's kind of infringing a little bit on Kyron Williams. I would say, because we saw what we saw last week, against the Titans, Blake Corum was kind of like the closer coming in the fourth quarter, getting that touchdown. It wasn't quite to that, specific situation, but we are seeing some Blake Corum efficiency in addition to Kyron Williams. So, that's just something to keep in the back of your mind as far as a guy that you probably should be rostering in the back half of your team. You shouldn't be letting him go on waivers. If something were to happen to Kyron, Blake Corum immediately steps in as mid-range RB2, I would say. But anything else on the Rams? I think pretty much nailed it there.
No, this is exactly who we thought the Rams were, like we talked about before the season. This is going to be a condensed offense. That's what we've gotten, is a super condensed offense. Devontae Adams is great, man. I love him in this offense. He's not going to be a high volume guy, but he gets the red zone looks, he gets the touchdowns, and Puka's Puka.
Puka is Puka, and just stay healthy, dude. That's all I'm gonna
That's
say.
all we ask.
We don't ask for much, but I mean, what we do ask for is just a little bit of health from our Puka Nacua. 30-0, the Carolina Panthers beat the Atlanta Falcons. I don't think a lot of people saw that coming, but for the Carolina side, I mean, you didn't really get much there. That was pretty much a defensive. I mean, they had defensive touchdowns. Didn't have to do a lot of heavy lifting there. Ted McMillan, 9 targets, team leading, 3 for 48. That's it. No receiving touchdowns there. Chuba Hubbard, 17 for 73. Still a pretty strong 60% of the team rushing attempts. Still a pretty strong role. And then you saw Rico Dowdle get in there to get 10 carries, 30 yards, and a touchdown because of the blowout. So I'm not putting a lot of stock in that, him getting on the field a little bit more because of the blowout. Other than that, I mean, Hunter Renfrow, 2 for 6. You're expecting was able to get out that maybe somebody else would step up. Nobody really did, but you didn't really need that either. But just earning 9 targets in a blowout like that for Ted McMillan is still really good. And I think the role is strong enough where you got to start him every week. But just know, because of the volatility of this offense, even in a game where they shut out the Falcons, like you're still going to get some inefficiency despite scoring all these points in the Falcons.
Well, it's still the Carolina offense. It's still Bryce Young. None of that changed. I'm going to be honest, man. This shocked me. I did not think that if you had showed me, said the final score of this game is going to be 30-0, what is everyone going to assume? Oh, Atlanta put up 30 points on Carolina.
Yeah, your initial thought was Bijan scored 2 touchdowns,
Yep.
Maybe another to like London or Mooney or something like that, and that
Michael
was it.
Penix took a step forward. Nope.
No, he was pretty much the Paul Abdul, 2 steps forward, and now he takes 2 steps back. Because opposites attract, because you got Kirk Cousins in the game. Anytime you can get Kirk Cousins in the game without an injury, you're not doing super great as a team. But yeah, Atlanta Falcons, nothing really to talk about here. 5 for 55 for London on 7 targets, 4 for 44 on 10 targets. In a game that they're going to be behind, and they wave the white flag. Tyler Algier doesn't get any work, really. 1 carry, 2 targets. Bijan still 13 for 72, 16 points. I mean, because the strength of his receiving stuff, 5 for 39. So obviously you feel great about Bijan still getting 16.1 fantasy points in a game where the team scores nothing. So you got to love that. Yeah. Other than that, it was good to see Mooney in the strong role. It's good to see Kyle Pitts, even though, 4 for 39 of 5 targets. The role is so strong. And, the Falcons lead the league in 12 personnel usage, which is just a crazy kind of flippening from last season where they led the league in 11 personnel. And that was they were getting Raymond McLeod on the field. He's not on the field as much. Like the third receiver is Kyle Pitts, and him and Charlie Warner are, kind of simpatico there. They didn't have to really get a lot of the 12 personnel on the field because of the blowout. They were really just passing, when they could, and getting Kirk Cousins on the field as well because they pulled Penix. Other than that, Nathan Carter, 7 for 46. That's the type of game this was, where you're getting your third special teams running back on the field.
Yep. This was I think I watched maybe a total of 5 minutes of this game today. There was just nothing.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch this game tomorrow, the condensed version. I want to see I want to see the madness, everything that happened with that, because I just want to see how bad it was for Penix. I didn't get to take a good look at him. And I'll be doing that tomorrow. So
it wasn't great, Bob.
Yeah, by the sound of it, certainly wasn't. I can't wait to check that out tomorrow. But let's go over to the Steelers and the Patriots. 21-14. Rodgers, a robust 139 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Really not too much in the past. Kind of what you expect from an Arthur Smith offense, where very spread out. Not a lot of guys. I mean, DK Metcalf had a really nice contested catch for the touchdown, 3 for 32. With that, Calvin Austin, 3 for 34 and a touchdown. They're still running the most routes of the Steelers receivers. Jonnu Smith is kind of interesting. He got on the field a lot more than Pat Freiermuth. 84% of the routes. You're still not starting him. You still don't feel that comfortable, but that was very interesting to see if that's going to be maybe a step forward for Jonnu Smith. To where maybe it could get that way, but for right now, you can't trust either. Jaylen Warren, very strong role, 60% of the routes, 80% of the snaps, 70% of the team rushing attempts. What's that? 81 total yards on how many opportunities? 24. Pretty strong. Caleb Johnson's in the band, or the doghouse here. Kenneth Gainwell ended up getting a rushing touchdown. Like, I guess you're starting DK Metcalf, you're starting Jaylen Warren. Other than that, Steelers play so slow. You can thank Aaron Charles Rodgers for that. Who the green 18 right up until 2 seconds on the play clock. So good luck.
Good luck. Yeah, it's unexciting. Aaron Rodgers, after that first week, he's exactly who we assumed he was going to be this season. Propped up by Mike Tomlin, who apparently, sold his soul to someone to finish at least 500 every season of his coaching career. Because this is a team that's going to finish 500 again, and I can't understand how or why. There's nothing exceptional about it at all. Jaylen Warren, like you said, he had a lot of opportunity today. 18 carries for 47 yards. DK Metcalf with the touchdown. Nothing we didn't expect. Nothing really super exciting on the Pittsburgh side here.
Yeah, if you didn't check that out, that catch that touchdown catch was really good. By the way, so go check that out. On the New England side, like, it doesn't look like super sexy. I mean, it is, because Drake May's awesome, but still 268 yards, 2 touchdowns and interception, 45 yards on the ground. He did have a fumble loss too. You're still QB5 going into Sunday Night Football. And then with this, surrounding cast, I mean, you got a huge game out of Hunter Henry, 8 for 90 and 2 touchdowns on 10 targets. Like, that's great to see. That probably bumps Hunter Henry into like the streaming tight end category. So you don't feel great about starting him, because we know the Patriots offense and all these pass catchers can kind of be interchangeable every single week. You're not even Stephon Diggs. Like, you can miss me with him. He's down to like 55% of routes today. For Spawn Diggs, 3 targets, 3 for 23. I think he's in droppable territory if you have a better option to pick up. But other than that, everybody fumbled besides Trevion Henderson, which was nice to see, I guess, if you're a Trevion Henderson guy. Ramondre Stevenson fumbled twice. Drake May fumbled once. Antonio Gibson fumbled once. Trevion Henderson didn't really do too much with like the touches he did get, but you gotta hope that with Ramondre fumbling so much in the first 3 games that this is finally going to be the launching pad for maybe we need to get Trevion Henderson a little bit of work. So I would certainly be putting him in my flex next week. I got to see who does New England face. I'm pulling it up right now. Oh, they have Carolina at home. So that's a spot where Trevion Henderson in the flex feels pretty damn good. And I still feel okay about Ramondre because I don't think that the coaching staff is smart enough or like savvy enough to kind of go away from Ramondre, but get at least start those 2. But in terms of the passing game, I don't really want anything to do with it. And I think that's more remarkable for what Drake May has done with this receiving core.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's Austin Hooper, Kayshon Boutte, Mac Hollins, Stephon Diggs, Kyle Williams, Pop Douglas. These aren't like super exciting receiving options on the New England side, right? They're not names that strike fear into the hearts of opponents, but Drake May is still doing something with it, which I do find impressive. I wasn't really excited about Drake May coming into the season. This performance today against Pittsburgh, which we've talked about how their defense isn't the old steel curtain, they're still decent. New England, I thought, played pretty well despite losing, falling to 1-2 here. But what I'm curious about, and this is what I don't fully understand, why is Antonio Gibson still getting carries in this offense, Kevin?
Because Josh McDaniels doesn't really know any better. And the hilarious thing is that they were putting Demario Douglas in the backfield too today.
I know.
So I know it's disgusting. But it kind of is what it is. You got to take the bad with the good, but there wasn't like too much good outside of Drake May and Hunter Henry. So I guess it just is what it is. But we can go over the other game, which I will say had Survivor, people sweating. Tampa and the Jets, 29-27. The Tampa Bay did win. And let me pull everything up here for Tampa. So Mike Evans left with, I believe, an ankle injury. That's going to be we're going to see what's going on with that. We'll see how high that ankle sprain is. The higher it is, the worse it is. So Emeka Egbuka played through hip injury, pull up Brandon's thing there about, was it to redeem himself this week in Pat? I certainly hope so. I haven't checked any of the PFF stuff in terms of that, but Antonio Gibson's always been like the worst in pass protection. So it can't get much worse than Antonio Gibson. So sorry, Lou, there were so many ankles and hamstrings today. It's hard to keep track of what was what. But yeah, Emeka Egbuka played through a hip injury and still went 6 for 85. No touchdown. Mike Evans 4 for 33 and a touchdown. Sterling Shepard 4 for 80. That was pretty condensed in terms of the passing game there. And then Bucky Irvin getting just an absolute workload. 74% of the team rushing attempts, 74% of the snaps, 61% of the routes. So that's a guy you're starting no matter what. But there really wasn't too much on the Tampa side there, but like Emeka Egbuka, just absolutely gutting that out and still pacing the team only solidifies his like wide receiver 2 status for me.
Well, and I'm getting less and less worried about his status when Chris Godwin comes back, because I think he's just established himself as a wide receiver 2 in this offense behind Evans. And with the Evans injury, the hamstring injury, we've seen Mike Evans have these injuries before. He generally misses 2 to 3 weeks. So the stage is set for Emeka Egbuka to kind of take over, possibly as the wide receiver 1 in this offense. A role I think a lot of us saw him taking over wherever he ended up coming into the draft. maybe thought a little bit less going to Tampa Bay with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, but I loved what I saw at Ibuka today. And really seeing Bucky Irving get the 29 opportunities, the 29 touches today was fantastic as well. I really do think that he has surpassed Rachaad White. I think it's very, 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 very clear now.
Was it not clear before?
I wasn't 100% because we were still seeing Rachaad White get some of that short yardage stuff. He got the touchdown last week. There were still some questions, at least in my. He doesn't matter now. I get it. Now I understand.
He didn't matter before. He didn't matter from like week 8 on last season.
Yeah, but I wanted him to matter because I like him. He's cute. His mom loves him.
That's one of us.
That's one of us. But other than that, I think we kind of nailed what the big takeaways were from this game on the Tampa Bay side.
Yeah, and I will say, with Godwin potentially coming back, if this offense gets to full strength with Evans, Ibuka, and Godwin, that's going to come at the expense of Sterling Shepard and nothing from Evans or Ibuka. You're going to see Evans and Ibuka, on the outside. Ibuka probably playing the flanker. Mike Evans, your X receiver. You're going to see Godwin on the field a lot more. Where I do have a little worry, though, is when the formation condenses down to 2 wide receivers. If that's going to be Ibuka or if that's going to be Godwin, that's what I worry about. So I think that's going to be the big decision point. Who is playing when the formation condenses. And I think that's where we're going to be. If Ibuka really hasn't, kind of surpassed Godwin, we're going to see the route share just totally going Ibuka's favor. You're probably going to see what ended up happening with like Josh Downs, where he's going to be on the field a ton. You're going to see Godwin kind of work back in, but you're probably going to see him in about a 65 to 70% route share and probably just as a flex play. Yep. So we'll see what happens there. But because of, the lower leg injury for Mike Evans, Godwin, if he does come back next week, is probably going to get, a decent amount of routes alongside Ibuka. So going over to the next game, that will be the Cleveland Browns and the Green Bay Packers. My Packers just absolutely gave that game away. In terms of the passing game, like everything that happened that we thought was going to happen, at least from what I said was going to happen with Dontavian Wicks, happened. We saw him get in the slot a lot more, 2 for 21 on 4 targets. Matthew Golden got a little more runway there with 84% of the routes a season high. Led the team in, amongst the receivers and tight ends, 4 for 52 on 4 targets. We saw Josh Jacobs get 9 targets. You're not going to see that a lot. That was basically because the Cleveland Browns defense is absolutely awesome. As I was talking about before the show, Mason Graham is my defensive rookie of the year. Without question, is the single most impactful defensive player in the league, and that includes guys like Derwin James. That includes guys, any of the pass rushers. Micah Parsons has been awesome for the run defense there in Cleveland. And then Josh Jacobs, you can't run on Cleveland. They held Chase Brown to, I believe it was 2 yards per carry in week 1. They held Derrick Henry to like almost nothing in week 2. 16 rushes for 30 yards for Josh Jacobs today. Green Bay is stubborn and did not want to get out of the run game, and that was their downfall. They didn't change up from what Cleveland was giving them, and that was kind of their downfall. Love threw a terrible interception on that, got them down to like inside the 5. They scored that touchdown, and then kind of that was that. So not much in the receiving game, not much in the rushing game. I think we can just skip the rest of Green Bay there. There's not much to talk about. Going over to the Cleveland side, Quinshon Judkins is the big takeaway here. Completely solidifying that, kind of RB2 status for the Cleveland Browns. 18 for 94 and 1 touchdown, 95% of the team rushing attempts. It's Quinshon Judkins' backfield, and Dylan Sampson took a huge step back in terms of even his pass role. Jerome Ford's going to be involved as like a pass pro guy and an occasional pass catcher. But if you're looking for production out of the backfield, it's Quinshon Judkins.
Yeah, Sampson didn't have a single target today. After all of that, the first 2 weeks, he didn't have a single target today. And if there were any questions as to whether Dylan Sampson was going to cut into Quinshon Judkins' work share, I mean, I think he's a He's a must start every week at this point. He's going to see all of the volume in that offense. I love it. I'm heavily invested in Judkins, though, so that's probably why I love it so much.
Yep. Yeah, that was good to see. In terms of the passing game, it was very spread out. You saw Jerry Jeudy get 5 targets, 1 for 17. David Njoku led the way with 6 targets, 5 for 40. Harold Fannin was kind of encroaching a little bit on the snaps, 3 for 25. He did have one play where he broke 4 tackles to get a first down, which was like one of my favorite plays of that game, where he was behind the sticks. He's probably like 4 or 5 yards, shrugged off 2 tackles, and then 2 more tackles after the line to gain just to get that first down. That was really cool to see. But other than that, not really much to talk about with this Browns game, because the Packers defenses was just as strong as the Browns. It was just some of the situational stuff that kind of did the Packers in here. Let's go over to Scamper. I did just see this, by the shout out Paula Abdul. Yes, yeah. Straight up now, tell me, is it going to be the Los Angeles Chargers or the Denver Broncos? It was actually the Chargers. I'm sorry, Nate, who beat the Broncos 23-20 in a game that helped decide a DFS contest for me. It's all right. I still won $100, so that was a good little score on my part.
Well, congratulations, Kevin.
Yeah. Thanks, Justin Herbert. Thanks, CeeDee Lamb, by the way. Also, we'll talk about that. But in terms of the Chargers, I don't know how to bring this up. I'm not going to be in this conversation if it's going to go this way. But some people out there are talking about Quentin Johnston being the wide receiver 1 on this team. 6 for 89, 114 air yards, led the team, 9 targets. I will not be a part of that kind of fetish of Quentin Johnston being the wide receiver 1 on this team, because no team, there is no bigger target distribution for one team to a position than the Chargers are to wide receivers. The fact that we saw 26 total targets to the wide receiver position, that's what we're looking at. 16, 21, 23. That's 62% of the team targets right there to the wide receiver position. Ladd McConkey, 4 for 41 on 7 targets. Keenan Allen had 10 targets, 7 for 65 and a touchdown. I'm not saying Quentin Johnston is the number 1 wide receiver by any means. We played 17% of the NFL season so far, but I think all 3 of these guys are perfectly viable in terms of fantasy value. We're going to see one guy do better than the other 2. You're going to see Ladd McConkey have his game. You're going to see Keenan Allen have his, QJ get his. And I think that's perfectly fine. I don't think you need to have a bona fide 1. I think with the way that Herbert's been passing the ball, with the actual intent pass rate were expected, which the Chargers have leading in this game, that start all 3 and kind of just flip the coin and hope you're getting the nut outcome here.
Yeah, I'm with you. Today it was Keenan Allen led the team in targets. I think he's a guy who could be a viable wide receiver 1 in this offense as well. He's a veteran, he's older, but the guy is still balling. We've seen it all season long. I'm not ready to anoint Quentin Johnston like literally anything. I don't even think he's a must start every week. I think that there are going to be matchups where I'm just simply not going to start him because of his history.
And this was supposed to be one of them. He was going to be on the outside with Patrick Surtain.
I know.
This was supposed to be the matchup. You don't start him.
Well, I wish it had been, and I wish it had proven to be that, but it did not, unfortunately.
I started McConkey and Allen in DFS. I started those 2. It was kind of a pick and poison. And then, Keenan Allen helped me, but yeah. So that's the thing. And I will say, go ahead.
Keenan Allen's always had Denver's number, though, man. His whole career, he's always played up against Denver.
Yeah. In terms of, Omarion Hampton, 6 for 59 on 6 targets, like that was a very interesting thing to see. Najee Harris, went down. It's an Achilles injury, probably going to be out, if not for the season, for the majority of it. So I think that's a spot where, because they're so thin behind Omarion Hampton, they have Hassan Haskins, Kamani Vidal, guys like that I think you're pretty much slotting Omarion Hampton into, I don't want to say quite RB1 territory yet. I don't think he's quite there, but certainly high end RB2 with the role that he's getting in such a potent offense. So 19 for 70 in a touchdown on 68% of the rushing attempts with that receiving role. He was RB2 this week so far. 24.9 fantasy points. The role is strong. The team is great. What's not to like about Marion Hampton now that the runway is even more clear?
Well, I liked him anyway. I haven't been a huge believer in Najee Harris, and we've got in the chat here, Lou confirming, is now confirmed that it is an Achilles for Najee Harris. My assumption is it's going to keep him out for the rest of the season. Tip. Quentin Johnson is a wide receiver 1. The thing is
he's in the Rotoballer group chat that we were talking about this, and I'm sorry to rain on your parade, Tip. I can't quite sign off on that yet, but I respect your freedom to say it.
The thing is if this keeps up, he is a wide receiver 1, and I don't fault Tip for being there already on it. Get ahead of the curve. With Najee Harris out now, though, what are your ultimate end of season expectations for Amari and Hampton? Do you think he's a guy who finishes as a top 8 running back in fantasy and PPR?
The role is strong enough where if we're going to see some of the receiving stuff that we're getting out of him, absolutely. The fact that the role is so strong on the ground is good enough anyway to put him into automatic RB2 stuff. But if you're going to be getting, if you're getting 4 to 5 to 6 carry or targets a game, that equates to 60 to 70 targets as well. I think that's a little more difficult to kind of prognosticate, but even if you get 40 to 50, that's still a really good runway for, because you're not taking him off the field for Hassan. I understood because you paid Najee Harris $10 million, that you're going to work him in with Hampton. Mm-hmm. The fact that you drafted Hampton in the first round, but you're not taking him off the field for Hassan Haskins. I'm sorry.
No.
So I think that just accentuates and hammers home the strong role that Hampton is going to have the rest of the season.
Well, and seriously, the 7 targets, that's phenomenal. Can we talk about Oronde Gadsden real quick? Just real quick, because how I feel about tight ends.
My dude from the Qs that I've been talking about for the last 2 years.
I loved him in Mobile. He was such a beast in Mobile.
Let me set the record straight about Oronde Gadsden. And trust me, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I don't want to lead anybody astray. He was still the clear backup to Tyler Conklin and even to Tucker Fisk in terms of blocking stuff. But the fact that he got 6 targets on limited routes, 26%, I think, efficiency breeds opportunity. I think you're going to see Gadsden have now a pretty solidified role in the offense, whether that's something that's going to be building up, even just getting him on the field. We saw that he absolutely belongs. He had a red zone target too. So the fact that this is production that you haven't gotten out of the tight end position this season from the Chargers. And, Will Dissly is fine. Tyler Conklin is fine. But the fact that Justin Herbert was with intent looking for Oronde Gadsden, I think is the main takeaway here. So, hit me with Oronde Gadsden. He's a guy that I'm not going to pick up right now unless you have room on your bench, which I know bench spots are very precious in fantasy football. But if you happen to have an extra one, he's not a bad guy to stash because that's exact profile that we want from a tight end in terms of fantasy production. He's a former wide receiver that his dad played in the NFL. You got a bloodline guy that is a 6'5", 235 pound former wide receiver. That's Juwan Johnson, that's Antonio Gates, that's all these Mark Andrews, that's Darren Waller. Basically that thesis for Darren Waller. Funny you should talk about that. The tight ends coach for the Los Angeles Chargers is the same tight ends coach that was with the Baltimore Ravens when Darren Waller was coming up too. So a little simpatico there, with converting a wide receiver to the tight end position. So that's a point that Coop actually brought to my attention that he was the same guy that helped oversee kind of that transition from Darren Waller. So something to think about there with Oronde Gadsden.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to pick him up right away, but he's a guy you need to have at least in the back of your mind that if he gets up to like 50%, and then we start seeing maybe he gets routes over Will Dissly or Conklin, I think that's very interesting, and that's something we want to just hammer home.
Yeah, be somebody you want on your watch list for sure.
Mm-hmm. Let's go over to the Denver side over here. Look, I'm not going to say I told you so. I'm not that kind of person. Oh, maybe I am.
You are.
Look, I know we all got over our skis about Mr. Troy Franklin, and it was nice to see that he ran 94% of the routes. That's great. That's great. That's half the battle. And I know it wasn't a great kind of game, but the only production we got out of this Denver offense was the one true king of the passing game, Courtland Sutton. 6 for 118 and a touchdown, 146 air yards, 100% of the routes. No worries about last week. Courtland Sutton's awesome. But yeah, if you picked up Troy Franklin with like a third of your fab, I don't think that you're very happy with this. You cannot start Troy Franklin. I'm sorry. I don't care how much fab you spent. I don't think there's anybody else in this passing game that you can reliably start. You're not starting Mims. You're not starting Bryant, Franklin, Troutman. You're not starting any of these guys outside of Courtland Sutton. No way.
No, it pains me to say it, but this is a team I was likely a little bit too hyped on. I still feel like they're about a year away. Bo Nix has looked rough through these first 3 games. It's reminiscent of what we saw last season. The question now becomes with these fantasy assets, is he going to crawl himself out of this hole like he did last season? Or are we staring down a bunch of guys outside of Courtland Sutton that aren't worth anything all of a sudden now? I don't really know what the answer is in this Denver offense. It's concerning. J.K. Dobbins isn't, and that's probably the only thing in this offense that isn't concerning to me, is that we're seeing efficiency and we're seeing volume for Dobbins that maybe we didn't think we were going to get.
Yeah, that's and that's the other pivot I was going to make. Yeah, RJ Harvey, you're going to have to wait a little bit on him because Sean Payton loves J.K. Dobbins, and we're starting to see, he's getting a couple targets here and there, but yeah, 11 for 83 and a touchdown, incredibly efficient, 68% of the snaps, 58% of the routes. The RJ Harvey thesis is going to have to wait because J.K. Dobbins has looked really good and really efficient. So, and even that Tyler Baday's role has come, kind of crashing down to benefit to that gets RJ Harvey on the field as well. But in terms of like a lot of the leverage stuff, that's going to be going on J.K. Dobbins. So I think that's a guy you can kind of start with confidence as like a mid-range RB2. I'm not saying that we're not going to see RJ Harvey later on in the season because we probably will. But I think that's a spot where if you have RJ Harvey, I think he's just firmly on the bench. You're not dropping him by any means. You likely spent a 5th round pick, maybe even a 6th round pick on Harvey. And I think you got to kind of see that through, even, the sunk cost fallacy and all that. But I still think he's a guy that you have to hold on to because the role's going to grow eventually for RJ Harvey. But while you have J.K. Dobbins, yeah, he's a mid-range RB2 right now that you can feel pretty confident in. Thoughts on Chase Brown? We did talk about that about half hour ago, I would say. So if you want to go back, we did talk about actually that was the very first game we did talk about. That was
it was
Bengals. Yeah. Toward the beginning of the video, Joe. So that's where we talked pretty extensively about the Chase Brown role and stuff like that. Jordan Mason or Trey Benson next week. I got to look at some opponents here because let's see. So Minnesota has at Pittsburgh. Arizona has Seattle. I'd still probably start Jordan Mason right now just because I think the role is going to be solidified. We're going to talk about Trey Benson because that's a guy I wrote a lot about this week. So we're going to talk about him certainly, but I think in this particular case, I would start Mason, just kind of heads up over
same.
Benson. Yeah, can I count on Dak? They are playing the Packers on Sunday Night Football. He's a streamer. I mean, that's pretty much what you're counting on Dak for. And not really as like a locked-in starter by any means.
Yeah.
going over to Seattle and New Orleans. So Seattle rolled up on the New Orleans Saints 44-13. We did see a lot of those guys get subbed out because of the blowout. Jackson Smith and Jigba didn't run a full routes. Nobody did. I mean, 5 for 96 and a touchdown. Who knew Sam Darnold could support the overall wide receiver one? But that's where we're at with Jackson Smith and Jigba. Let's go over to, Torrey Horton. That was nice to see him run 76% of the routes and score a touchdown. He also had, did he have a return touchdown too?
Yes, he did. He had a return. No.
Yeah. I thought he had something else.
Yeah, today did feel like a fever dream, but you did not dream that. He did have a return touchdown, yes.
I am a little hot under the collar here, I will say. I just want Torrey Horton to be a thing over Cooper Kupp, I guess. But yeah, 3 for 32 and a touchdown. Like, it's good to see him running routes there, well above Jake Bobo and Derek Young. So I think he's a guy that you at least had to have in the back of your mind if you're not picking him up, because I'm not picking him up right now. But he's somebody that potentially could be the second wide receiver in Seattle, I think, by the end of the season, given this trajectory. Other than that, all those guys got subbed out. Nothing on the tight ends. Kenneth Walker had 2 touchdowns, but very inefficient, 60 for 38. Not too much to really talk about. It was a blowout, and then, all those guys kind of got subbed out by the beginning of the fourth quarter anyway.
Yeah, well, what? You don't want to talk about Spencer Rattler in New Orleans?
Well, I mean, on the Seattle side.
Well, I guess there was nothing else. Ken Walker was great, inefficient. He got the touchdown. I needed more out of him for DFS, but I mean, this game got out of hand so quickly because it was 21-0 at the end of the first quarter, and it was out of hand too quickly.
Yeah, it was 38-3 at the half. Like, it was that disgusting where it was like, it was 38-6. I'm sorry. Which in the history of the New Orleans Saints, with how bad they've been, that is the worst halftime score that they've had as a franchise. So, you know what? Yeah, Minnesota defense in DFS was the play. I started Indianapolis, and I thought I was, as soon as they got that touchdown. But, if you just started Isaiah Rodgers, you were in a good shape for the Vikings. But yeah, going over to the Saints now. We got 40 pass attempts out of 39 out of Spencer Rattler there. 13 targets for Chris Olave, 10 for 57. There wasn't too much in the passing game. 8 targets for Juwan Johnson, which is nice to see, even though the production really wasn't there. 6 for 51 is like a fine game. It's just nice to see the strong roll. Rashid Shaheed, 87% of the routes, 4 for 42. Not much there, and then not much in the passing game either. Devin Neal was a healthy scratch, so it was Alvin Kamara and Kendry Miller there, but nothing really happened there in the blowout, and even they kind of tipped their hand and waved the white flag there. So not too much there. Do you have any thoughts on the Saints side there?
It was nice to see Juwan Johnson still get his targets. It's good to see Chris Olave continuing to see targets. I don't know if I care all that much because this offense is just absolute trash, and Spencer Rattler's still the quarterback. And we got Tyler Shuck, for all you people who wanted to see Tyler Shuck 0 for 2 today behind center.
Yeah. That was good for like the 4 people that really wanted to see that. But let's go over to a very exciting 34-14 game because it's probably the best that we've seen the Chicago Bears on offense in quite some time. 31-14 over the Dallas Cowboys. We saw the Ben Johnsoning happen. That flea flicker to Luther Burden was awesome to see. Roma Dunze got in the end zone again, 3 for 62 on a team leading 7 targets. DJ Moore got in the end zone, 4 for 21 and a touchdown. Cole Kmet, he is alive and well, apparently. 1 for 10 and a touchdown on his only target. Colston Loveland, 1 for 31. He's, he's getting on the field, I guess. 17% of routes, so sure. But other than that, it was a lot of the stuff we've seen for Ben Johnson, running the ball with DJ Moore, running the ball, on kind of reverses with Luther Burden and Olamide Zaccheaus. It's some of the staples of the Ben Johnson offense that we've seen in Detroit the last couple of years, starting to manifest in Chicago. And then Caleb Williams, putting it all together there with 298 yards. I could have used that 300 yards for the DK bonus, by the way. 4 touchdowns for Williams as well. So very nice to see there's some kind of offensive continuity there, but it was still good to see Roma Dunze kind of still be the front and center of that offense in terms of leading the team in targets. So very happy with that. Anything on the Chicago side for you?
No, just everything that you said. I'm happy to see this offense starting to put it together. Caleb Williams looked really, really good today. DeAndre Swift had a couple of carries, catches, yards after the catch situations. I was impressed with him as well. This is a team that feels like they might actually be able to make a little bit of noise. I'm not going to get overexcited because it was against Dallas. And, when they lost Micah Parsons, it completely changed the outlook of this team and this defense. But it was still good to see. This was a positive performance from the Bears. Odunze kept doing it. Luther Burden's little mini breakout was awesome. I loved every second of it for the Bears side anyway.
Yeah, even though Luther Burden did get the 1 yard and a touchdown, it was only on 31% of routes. So we're not anointing anything yet, for him. Zaccheaus still ran 59% of the routes in the slot. So, just kind of keep that in mind there. That's not something that we're here. The role isn't growing, at least quite yet.
No.
Yeah, but just to put it out there, I don't want to get people's hopes up that 101 yards and a touchdown is usually something that we're it's great to see, but something we want to temper expectations with.
Yep.
On the Dallas side there, I believe it was only 7 snaps that CeeDee Lamb played before leaving the game with his injury, and they were kind of playing from behind the whole way too. So. George Pickens line, it seems 5 catches for 68 yards and a touchdown. I believe he had that last week as well. That same exact line. Had that on 9 targets. Jake Ferguson apparently is now like a volume. He's Evan Ingram now, I guess. 14 targets, 13 catches for 82 yards. And we'll take it. Not Evan Ingram, 2025 certainly, but like maybe 2023 Evan Ingram with Jacksonville. We'll take that certainly. And then some kind of scheme stuff with Kevontae Turpin, getting him a rushing attempt plus a couple catches for 64 yards. Javonte, even, in the loss, 10 for 76, pretty efficient. And then 5 catches on top of that. You'll take 12.2 points out of that in a blowout. So, there's some good stuff here. We know Dallas is going to carry some passing volume. And if CeeDee Lamb is going to be out, he said that he'll be doing everything he can to play next week, in that game against Green Bay on Sunday Night Football. So that's going to be iffy for fantasy managers to have to kind of hold on to that. But if you got him, you're starting him, obviously. But if not, then it's George Pickens and Jake Ferguson kind of consolidating some of the stuff in this offense. You might get some like we got today, more Turpin stuff, more Tolbert stuff, but you can hang your hat on Pickens and Ferguson to carry the volume or something if Lamb can't play for whatever reason.
Yeah, much like Trey Tucker, is it cool to see Turpin get targets? Yeah, I love it. But this isn't a consistent thing. It's not someone you want to target in fantasy, not someone you want to be starting in fantasy. Javonte Williams, though, that was encouraging. I think maybe we saw a little bit of a flash or a sign saying, this might be at some level sustainable out of Javonte Williams and this Dallas offense this season, which I have picked him up a number of places as insurance. It's nice to know he might actually be startable down the road, and we just need CD back healthy. That's all. Yeah,
it stinks. It is what it is, but that's football. Going over to the last game we're going to talk about here, San Francisco and the Arizona Cardinals. The San Francisco 49ers edging out the I wanted to say the Falcons. I just keep seeing the A. The Cardinals 16-15 there, and then pulling up everything here for San Francisco. Ricky Pearsall, pretty massive game. Juwan Jennings was out. And obviously Christian McCaffrey was still there to carry some of the volume. Obviously, George Kittle. So, yeah, 8 for 117 on 11 targets for Ricky Pearsall. He had an awesome catch down the sideline. I started him in DFS as well, and that was a really cool, that over the shoulder on the near sideline toward the end of the game. That was the play that really got me going for Pearsall there. And then Christian McCaffrey, I swear, the guy puts up the most unathletic 24 fantasy points you'll ever see. Like, the dude was literally get out in the middle of the field, turn around. He's like, he Travis Kelce'd his way to 10 catches for 88 yards on 14 targets. Like, that's what CMC did, and then added 17 for 52 on the ground. So that's totally fine. But yeah, still pretty condensed for the 49ers, even though they're without their, two of their top guys there. It just condenses down to the other guys because they're a mess right now in terms of injuries. They're trotting out Sky Moore for 63% of the routes. The corpse of Kendrick Bourne is still out there for 38 on 4 targets. MVS is trotting out and running routes.
Yeah.
It's not great, but it's great for like the guys that actually matter, which is Pearsall and CMC.
Well, CMC 10 catches today, led the team in targets. Not that that's super surprising. I expected a little bit more of a downturn from him. And then when they brought in Brian Robinson, I thought we were going to see more B-Rob in this offense. We just haven't. CMC continues to be the workhorse. I think that's the story in this game, really, ultimately. There wasn't a whole lot else to care about, be excited about outside of maybe Ricky Pearsall. He had a big game, 100-plus yards like we talked about. But CMC, again, continues to be the workhorse, man. This dude is just a freaking – he's a robot.
Yeah, and that's the thing with like the older running backs is that the ones that carry the receiving part of the workload are the guys that last a little bit longer than the guys that like end up turning 30 and then just completely fall off in terms of like a Zeke that completely fall off with like the rushing efficiency, and there's nothing else to kind of prop them up. At least if CMC is going to fall off in some of the rushing efficiency, because that's what we've seen so far this season, is the dude can just come out and be, leading the team in Duke could put up a 14 target game like this and just absolutely keep his floor and ceiling. Like the fact that he had 18.8 points just on receiving stuff, like just in the receiving stuff, I think he was still like RB7 today. So that should tell you like, that's where the floor is absolutely there with CMC. The ceiling is still there with CMC, even though he's having to kind of do it a different way. So that's definitely interesting here. We'll hit these, questions really quick there. I hit the trade. Bowers, Drake, Charbs, and Jacobs for Neighbors, Brees, Olave, and Kincaid. I would take the second half of that over the first.
Same.
I don't know about you.
Okay. Me too. Same.
Yeah, and in terms of like Javonte being the guy, that's what we're looking at right here, because Miles Sanders is no threat to Javonte right now. And whether we want to admit it or not, like they're giving a strong role to Javonte today. 60% of the routes, 60% of the snaps there, 50% of the team rushing attempt. They did give Miles Sanders some run too, but the fact that Javonte is still pretty efficient, 10 for 76, and you're still getting some of the receiving stuff, like that's still RB2 worthy. So I don't want to say he's like the guy there, but he's the guy for now. Which I think is good there. Let's go over to the Cardinals. That was the other side of that game there. Not too much in terms of like Trey McBride got in the end zone. I guess that's worth celebrating. Certainly led the way, 7 targets, 5 for 43, and a touchdown. Obviously, the big story there with the Arizona Cardinals is James Conner getting hurt. That injury looked terrible.
Awful.
Trey Benson, I was talking about infringing in terms of his role, Connor's role. And I remember watching the Connor injury happen and I wanted it to happen, but not like this.
Right.
But the way it's looking right now with Trey Benson's backfield, Amari DiMercato is probably going to go back to being a special teams guy. And maybe he'll get some third down stuff, some long down and distance, but it would not surprise me if the Cardinals went out on the street and found like an actual backup running back. I mean, they still got, I think they still have Michael Carter on the practice squad. So I think he could even be that option, but I would say looking at Trey Benson going forward, he's probably a mid-range RB2 right now that you can depend on to get 60% of the routes, 70% of the snaps. I think you can expect a strong roll out of him with some efficiency. It was James Conner. They had an out on his contract at the end of the season anyway for James Conner. So this is probably their kind of tryout to see if can be Benson's backfield going into 2026.
Well, I think it can be, and I think it has to be. I'm bummed about James Conner, though, man. Just super bummed. Isn't a better dude. Just what a shame. Also, I'm bummed about what is it with Marvin Harrison dropping easy passes? This dude was supposed to have some of the best hands in the league coming in. Are you worried about that? Are you worried that that's going to start to affect his volume?
It already is. Like
it is, but even more.
Well, I mean, he's not going to go the way Xavier Legette, certainly, but the fact that, I mean, this team has always been a chronically underachieving team in terms of some of the receiving stuff. Like we've seen the Trey McBride stuff, and I think he's the clear top target here. The hope for the Marvin Harrison stuff was that he could be like the 1A to McBride's 1B, or even flipped, but still very, high in the pecking order. And the fact that you're still getting, Zay Jones and Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch still involved in the passing game. Harrison's role is strong, 98% of the routes today, 80% of the snaps. Like that's probably not going away, but you want to see some efficiency. You want to see some target earning ability. The fact that he's only earned a target today on 50% of his routes is not good. That is very below average for a wide receiver. Usually you want the targets per route run for a receiver to be in the 20% and above range. And then anything over like 24% is like pretty elite. So for him to be clear below 20% is like not good. And then like for the season, like looking at Marvin Harrison's kind of peripherals, that's where he's at this season, like in total from 3 games, 50% targets per route run, 1.35, targets per route run, 15.7%, yards per route run, 1.39, both well below average for a wide receiver. So you want to see some efficiency out of him. The fact that they're not really using him creatively either, I think is very discouraging too. So, I mean, if I have him, I think you have to start him if you don't have any other options. But if you have other options, I'm totally fine just sitting him until we start seeing him string games together.
If he does, hopefully he will.
Yeah. All right, man. We got through these games a little quicker this week, at least. But yeah, man, that was what 14 games right there. Not too bad.
14 games. Yeah, not too shabby at all. Yeah, it's been a good time, guys. I want to thank everybody who showed up, tuned in. I know there's been at least 80 of you crazy degenerates. I know there will be more tonight. If you are watching this on the replay, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to the Optimus channel. We have a ton going on, including tomorrow morning. You can join Kevin for clock management. Kevin, who's your guest tomorrow?
It's me. I'll be interviewing me. No, we're doing a solo show. We're gonna go through each team. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about some stuff. A little solo stream. So I'm excited for that. To just I'll answer everything. Anything you in the chat, like bring it on. I'll answer it. I don't care if it's not about football. I'll answer it too.
I love it. This is great.
Yeah, that'll be a fun show. Just gabbing with the chat and talking about all these teams. So I could probably go pretty long-winded. We'll see how that goes. But fun show. That'll be at noon Eastern. So catch that.
Fantastic. And then tomorrow night you can catch me with Evan during Monday Night Football. We are going to roll through all of the waiver wire claims you need to be making for your Week 4 rosters. Kevin, it's been a blast, man. Thanks for having me every Sunday night to go through all of these games with you. It's always just a massive joy. My favorite part of the weekend.
Yeah, man. And, maybe we'll figure out who's hosting this shindig.
Eventually, we'll get it.
We'll get
it down. We'll get there. Well, I'll roll us out of here, guys. For Kevin Tompkins, I'm Nate Polvogt. We want to thank you so much for spending your Sunday evening with us. We can't wait to see you tomorrow. Make sure you like and subscribe and go check out our Discord channel. We'll answer all your questions there as well. Good night. Good luck. We'll see you next week.